Hey everyone, thanks for checking out this episode of the Powered by Iron Health podcast, where we believe we want to raise the standard of the health and wellness field. So Iron Health, we are a physical therapy practice first, but we also offer other health services, and we're going to keep expanding that. We want to create a community that raises the standard. It's so important to raise the standard, not only in your life, but in your job and everything you do. Keep growing as a person, keep evolving. So today we're going to talk a little bit about specifically the physical therapy field. And if anyone's out there who is maybe has a practice, works in a small practice, is interested in opening practice, how do you survive as a small practice in a field that is now everyone's buying everyone? And I've been doing this for 7-8 years now. And I will say, being a small practice is not easy. I will outline it with that perspective first. When you are small, it's a totally different game that you have to play. You don't have the leverage of being big. And that's the straw you pick, right? That's the life you choose. That's the path you choose if you are in this category. Even if you're an employee in a small practice, it's very different from being in a hospital. I have had so many times where we had a PT interested in working here, and they'll end up going to a hospital because the work-life balance is better, the pay might be better. But these are the animals that you're going to hit. But it's how do you want to live your life? How do you want to live your career out? Super important to know that before you make any choices. So there's a couple things that I want to talk about when you are a small practice in a big medical field, right? The first one, if you are a small practice, is community. So there's a couple layers to community. One, the community that's within your walls. What is your community like? Do you have an inviting space for people to come in? Do they feel happy when they're there? Do they want to be there? Do they feel like they've gotten great value when they're in that process? Does your team feel aligned? You guys are all ahead shooting for the same goal? That's community with internal. And then you have external community. You have a small practice, or you're a part of a small practice. What is your competitive advantage is if you are intertwined with your local community. Local community is massive. If you're not doing things for setting up events, going to meet people, meeting other business owners, meeting gyms in the area, in putting yourself in the community to say, hey, I'm here to help, you're not going to go anywhere. It's not a world where it's like me versus you. It's like, let's do this together, especially if you align with other small businesses. Small business, anyone who's out there who owns one understands the struggles. So align with them. And then be a part of your community. Give back. Show them that you care. That's super important in anyone who's in a small medical field. Like, you have to be ingrained in the community, and you cannot stop. You cannot just say, hey, I did one thing and that's it. You have to consistently be trying to develop within the community. The second one, if you're in a small medical practice, is accountability. And I always talk about accountability now. And we, a year or two ago, brought on a system on how to run our business. It's called EOS. If anyone's interested in that, let us know. I'll do a whole video on that. But a big premise is accountability. That means that everyone on your team is accountable to specific metrics, actions, and tasks, right? If you don't have big levels of accountability within a small business that has to operate very efficiently, it's not going to work. You have to be accountable. And you stepping in, if you're not looking to be a owner, or you stepping into a small business, have to understand that level of accountability is there. It might be harder in a smaller medical practice because you guys are more gritty, right? Like, it's super important to understand that. The next one is grit. And grit is a trendy word now, but the reality is, if you're in a small medical practice, you got to be gritty. You're pretty much fighting to get clients, and you're fighting against big dogs with a lot of money to spend to acquire a client and a lot of connections. So you, as a small practice, whether you're a provider or a manager or an owner, whatever you are, you need to be gritty. And there cannot be an off button there. You have to understand that you're going to try to reach out to 100 people, and maybe 2 or 3 might answer. Maybe 1 becomes a client. And that grittiness has to be a part of your culture, because that's the only way to survive when you're a small business. Medical, small business, yes, but small business in general. Grit has to be a highlight there. If you don't have grit, there will be a point where you don't survive. And that's the dead honest truth of it. And the last part is really persistence. I see it a lot in my clinics, and each one of my clinics, what I did was just like I would put myself in there and try to grow it. And it's just a non-stopping attitude, right? This is the difference that separates someone like a big group or a hospital compared to a small group. A hospital has a baked in sense of referrals. They know what's coming. They know what's going on. A small group, you're out there every day being persistent, trying to let people know you exist, to bring them in, to change their lives. And that persistence cannot stop. Once it stops, you have a curve that goes down. So you must be persistent. And I say these things out here because this is applicable for anyone who's actually even interested in working in smaller medical practices, because this is what it takes for them to succeed. Like, we've had many people who've come through the doors who realize that they don't want to do that, and that's okay. But it's important to know that when you're small, you have positives and you have the negatives, and then you have to choose what you want to do. Those are 4 basic tenets of really how to survive. It's that never give up attitude. I'll finish it with that. Like, you can never give up. It's the hardest thing you'll do if you're in a small medical practice, especially if you're going to look to open it. But you have that mentality, you flip that switch to never give up, you will succeed. So if anyone has any questions on that, feel free to reach out to me. Thanks for watching.